Bembe_Winnie. Remember to use the hashtag #YourWorld. I can see a number of your tweets, but of course we'll be focusing on them, or I'll be looking at your feedback as we continue with the discussion. But let me introduce my guest for the day, and we have Joy Mdivo. I'll start with the lady. We have Joy Mdivo, who's a political analyst. She's here with us. Good morning, Joy. Morning. It's very good to see you, Karibu Sana, to the studio. And we also have Sam Connor, who's a commissioner, NCIC. Sam, thank you very much for joining us this morning. How are you feeling?
I'm fine.
You're
thank
well,
you.
yeah?
Yeah,
all right.
thank you.
And of course, we also have Wachira Njuguna, who is a governor aspirant, Nairobi County. All right. Good morning, Wachira. It's good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Winnie.
How
morning,
are you
Nairobi.
feeling? Like the campaigns are really picking up.
Oh, yes.
Do you feel you have a chance?
Oh yes, I have a chance.
Yes.
I mean, we are only 4 or 5 of us in Jubilee.
Yes.
So of course, the law of probability says that I've got a 20% chance. Yes. So.
All right. Okay. We'll see how that goes, even as we again, like I said, gear up towards the general election. But before we focus on the conversation, of course, something that has affected so many Kenyans. And I just want to see your view from the same, and that is on the fuel shortage. Have you guys been affected? What do you feel about this? Is it becoming more political right now, or what exactly is happening in the country? I'll start with you, Wachira.
Yeah, of course, every now and then, of course, there are very many factors that affect the supply, the international supply of commodities. And Kenya is not an exception. So we have that problem currently, but we need to deal with it as a government. So yes, there's been that problem. It's very painful, and it's also very wrong to find that we find ourselves flat-footed.
Yeah.
That means that we need to put in a lot of effort as a country to avoid such problems.
Yeah. Have you been personally affected?
Oh yes, yesterday I had gone for a small break.
All right.
In my up-country home.
Yeah.
And on my way back, I ran out of fuel. And I had to queue for like 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it was very bad. My wife was hungry.
Yes.
And there was no food around.
Yeah.
So very basic things. And I kept on asking myself in those 2 hours, why would we end up in such a situation?
Yeah.
Something must be done.
Right.
We must, of course, improve the governance of our country. We cannot just sit flat-footed and pray for God
something to happen.
No, we must do something, and that comes from leadership. We must make sure we get good leadership in our country. Not that what we have is bad. Sometimes these things happen.
Yeah.
But we must strive as Kenyans to get the proper leadership to ensure that the citizenry gets an efficient way of life.
Supply of some of these basic commodities. And I'm happy that, again, you being amongst the leaders, of course, here today to just help us understand then what do we need to do, all right? And of course, Joy, I'd also want to get your view on the same. Right now, we see the different political divides, somewhat crafting, a way to somewhat politicize this whole aspect of fuel shortage. Is that a wrong move, politicizing the fact that, listen, so many people are being affected by the fact that we do not have enough fuel in the country?
Politicians will always look for a chance to make, any small inroad. They have to look for a chance to make any impact. And so I was not surprised to see people making political capital out of it. But when I was listening to the CS, the PS Petroleum, I was a bit intrigued, because as far as government is concerned, there's no fuel shortage. What we have is panic buying. And I thought, okay, if you have lined up for 2 hours for fuel, you're feeling shortage. You're not feeling panic buying. Your tank is empty. And if you could even just get 2,000 bob worth of fuel, you'd be on your way. Yeah. So I think there is need for information flow. Because from what we garner, it's not strictly that there's a fuel shortage. No. Fuel is there, it's in the depots, it's in the pipelines, it's everywhere. In fact, the PS was challenging us, find out how many ships are even docked in Mombasa, offloading petrol as we speak.
Right.
So fuel eco, problem is we've not paid subsidies, or it's not the first time we're not paying subsidies. Then we think the fuel marketers are the ones who are taking advantage of the political climate to sort of squeeze the government to pay what they owe. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, fine, this is there's a bunch of people who have various responsibilities, who are each not doing as much as they could in the situation. The marketers taking advantage of the political season, the politicians taking the opportunity to make a meal of it, government saying, you know what, we've even owed you more before, why are you
bringing issues now?
So these guys are playing musical chairs with this situation, while the person who's paying the price is the common man. So I think what the president did yesterday, going ahead signing the supplementary budget, releasing the funds for the extra subsidies, excellent move. So that means hopefully today, tomorrow, this should be a thing of the past. But quite frankly, we know the season we're in, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of planning, government could have averted this. And even the petroleum dealers, honestly, there are better ways of dealing with pushing your business. If you've extended a credit line to government, you know, suck it up and keep extending it. You are the ones who have umumewazoesha.
It's like, yeah, we delay, so like it's fine.
It's your problem, not the Kenyans.
Not the Kenyans' problem.
I feel cheated that there's no real fuel shortage. But we are feeling
there's shortage again.
So that was wrong in my part.
All right. Okay. Very, very wrong. All right. And of course, it will be unfair not to give you a chance to just respond to the same. So very quickly, what do you feel? Are you affected? Are you okay? Who should be held responsible? Very quickly.
Yeah, I think the issue of fuel shortage affects everyone. You can't say there is any Kenyan who is not feeling the pinch of the fuel shortage. What I want to underscore is the fact that it's just a combination of factors that is coming into play, especially on the discussion we are having today about political violence. Yeah. Because unfortunately, everything now has to be politicized.
True.
The Supreme Court ruling on BBI was politicized. The fuel shortage is going to be politicized. And it's just a tragic confluence of factors that is coming into play in our country. Because we just come out of a very distressful state of COVID-19. The youth unemployment problem is at its highest. And there's a lot of frustration. We have a drought that is ravaging the northern part of the country. And now we have this fuel shortage. I don't know what will be the next challenge that our country will face. So I would just want to say that all these things could be calling for us as a nation to sit back, reflect, and begin to see ourselves as one people who have to confront our problems as one. Instead of always blaming another person. Sometimes even find one segment of the government blaming the same government. And then you are left as citizens. So what is going on here? So I just want to say there are so many challenges that are currently converging within our political space, and we need to exercise sobriety as we deal with them.
That's true. Let's not point fingers because there's a lot of that as at now. All right, so let's shift focus and, of course, focus on the conversation of the day, you know, that is politics and violence. And, of course, given what we're currently seeing, like I said earlier on, we're just a few months shy away from the general elections. And, of course, right now, and especially on the pre-election phase where there's realignments and realignments, you know, taking place in the political sphere. So the biggest question that I'll start with you, Joy, is where does this all stem from? Like, do we always have to see a case of violence every electioneering period? Can't we just have full elections? You know?
We are maturing, we are getting there. We're not as bad as we used to be. But if you start talking origins, we have to go back to where we started as a nation.
That's true.
For us to even get our independence, it was a clamor, it was a struggle, it was a fight of us against the white person. And then we went ahead and organized into some political systems. The beginning stages of our political systems are also very acrimonious. And so violence was always the means of spurring the revolution. When you get to the end of the road, there's an uprising. There's the marches in the streets, there's the waving of the placards, there's all, I mean, growing up, I remember seeing all those scenes of, you know, you see the politicians walking hand in hand, linking hands, and the people are behind them. So violence has always been a means of sort of making your voice heard when you feel you're not getting heard. That helped us to sort of change the face of Kenya. Get even the constitution that we have now. So we got into a space where we got used to associating violence with political activity. And it's almost as if when it's a political season, there is a spirit of violence that is released where people become uninhibited. then there's a good old thing that we cannot discount of mob psychology. If you find yourself in a crowd and one person starts, hey, hey, the next thing you know is everybody, which is what we saw, like the clip on Forest Road for that lady.
That's true.
I mean, it was an incident with one person, but by the time it was done, it became an entire industry.
Yeah.
So there is a certain socialization as a society that we have had that predisposes us to violence. But the one thing that we see is always a common factor. Like with every bomb, there's a detonator.
That's true.
There's the guy who sets it off. There's the fellow who finds the right spot to strike the match. Now, repeatedly, this has been a politician.
Yes.
So you'll find that there is somebody somewhere who will organize people, and you know, you set the little fire hoping that it becomes a big one. Yeah. And I think that's where now, like where Sam works, that's part of what they try to do, is try to find these detonators before they detonate, and try and neutralize them. Because as a society, where we have reached now as a country, we no longer need violence. We've gotten to a place where if you speak, we hear you. Look at us now. We are on national television, and the people who are watching us, we don't have to meet to communicate.
Yes.
We are getting our messages across. Yeah. So whereas once upon a time, you didn't know where you're going to find Moi to tell him what you thought, you had to create a big scene outside All Saints to get him heard. Right now, we can sit here and I can say, Mr. President, listen to me. Yes. And he will watch and he will listen to me.
Absolutely.
So we've changed.
Yeah. We have come a long way, but then again, given what we're seeing now, right? And like I said, the campaigns are really, really heating up right now. I mean, aren't we scared that we will go back, you know, like 50,000 steps back, you know, to where we started from? And the fact that you're saying, listen, we are somewhat maturing up. And even listen to like the daily conversation. You'd hear a lot of Kenyans saying, listen, sisi tumechoka, hatutaki vita. But then again, there's still the same persons who go ahead and, you know, participate in cases of violence. So is it more of a we problem, Sam, or is it more of the leaders' problems, and in this case, the politicians who are the detonators?
Yeah, I think it's good to recognize the fact that as a country, we've made a lot of progress. We are one of the few countries in Africa that has had elections without violence, without coups. We've had them regularly. And also, for me, last week was a very good opportunity for Kenya to celebrate. For the first time, we had a Supreme Court ruling where there was no protestation. There was no bashing of the judiciary, and that's a good indication of our maturation as a democracy. All right. In terms of violence, there is always that tendency for people to use violence as a tool for political mobilization. And unfortunately for us as a country, it's so easy to encourage violence as a tool of political mobilization because our main nucleus for political campaign is the tribe or tribal identity. So people always recede back to their own cocoons because somebody is creating fear that another community is going to affect you so that element of fear that is always generated against candidates is what makes communities to go back to themselves and say, we've got to defend ourselves. And then accompanied with the question of tribal identity is the question of blind trust. We have these dominant politicians, personalities, who their supporters do not question even what they say or what they are planning to do or what they are saying about other communities. And because of that, we end up following them even when we know that they are leading us to the wrong path. As NCIC, we had a sitting in January to discuss just to look at the landscape and see where we are likely to experience this kind of violence. And unfortunately, there are many factors that make Kenya's elections to be prone to violence. Some of them, of course, are just places that have a history of political violence, where you have got these dominant personalities I've talked about that are able to mobilize their communities against others. Also places where you have got multiple identities in a county, for example. And all those things combined with the fact that we still have a challenge of criminal gangs who emerge during elections or are organized and so forth. So it is not that we are violent in nature as a people,
All right.
but the organization of our politics is such that it creates conditions for us to use violence as a form
As a
of
means.
of political mobilization.
All right.
So you can't blame the politicians, you can't blame the citizens, because sometimes the citizens are the ones who even encourage the politicians to speak in bad ways, because they clap for them, they chant.
It's
and
like they encourage them to,
yeah.
yes.
So we all have to look at what needs to happen in terms of our values,
Okay.
in terms of our own self-discipline as a nation.
As a people. All right, and from what you're saying, we can't really blame the politicians. We can't really blame, you know, the Kenyans, for example, in general. But at the end of the day, someone has to take responsibility, no? Because, like Joy says, it starts from somewhere. There's these detonators, you know, who are among us that, again, NCAC is really trying to get a hold of them. So, Washida, what is it about politics? Like, can't politicians just, and some are good, but some, you know, like we all know, are prone to, you know, be amongst those people who, you know, organize such incidences. So the question is, can't you resist it? You know, when that urge comes to somewhat like mobilize people, is it impossible to just resist and make sure that you campaign peacefully?
You know, Winnie, the politicians are squarely to blame.
All right.
There is no doubt about that. If you look at the history of violence in Kenya, as Joy has put it, it starts before independence. Of course, different tribes, out of competing for various resources, would fight. The Maasais and the Kikuyus would fight. But then it got to a point where we had a truce, and we agreed no more fighting. Let's live in peace.
All right.
And that happened. There's a lot, of course, happening where Sam comes from, at Baragoi, between the Pokots, the Turkanas, and the Samburus. We are evolving. But I want to take you back to, because I know Joy has touched on pre-independence, during the emergency period, and then immediately after emergency, all the people from Mount Kenya who had migrated to Nandi Hills, especially Uasin Gishu, exactly where the violence was this weekend. My family moved in there in 1924 in a village called Miteitei. And what happened? There came the Nandi Declaration in 1965, 1967. I won't name him because in some quarters he's supposed to be a hero, but amongst the Mount Kenya people, he's a villain. He came up with a story that all the lands in Nandi were God-given to the Nandis. That's wrong.
Okay.
What happened in 1967? After all of us came from central Kenya in the colonial villages, back to the lands that we knew was our home, we were chased away.
Okay.
And we were chased away violently. That is how most of us ended up in Nakuru,
All right.
in Eldoret. Because when we were chased away from Nandi Hills, and the heart of Nandi Hills is Uasin Gishu. So I'm trying to say that those people who are perpetrating violence are still stuck in the Neanderthal and caveman type of politics.
Okay.
And we really need to be careful. And that's why I'm saying the politicians are to blame. They need to be stopped. You know, the other day, we had that from a friend of mine, who is the Minister of Interior, saying that we will arrest these people. We'll start arresting these people in September. For heaven's sake. These guys are committing political violence now. They should be arrested now.
Okay.
They should be bonded now. They should be locked up now. They should go to court now. Yeah? And they should be punished now. So that at the end of the day, we don't have what we are seeing. Because if we defer
and wait and postpone until
to November,
September,
we will get people dying.
Yeah.
Now, come forward to 1992. The same cavemen, politician, Neanderthal kind of thinkers, incited people against the Mount Kenya people in Molo. We were in campus. We were just youngsters that time. Our parents were stuck in there. So what did they have to move? What did they have to do? We moved all the way again from Molo to our relatives in Nakuru town. Now, when we come to Nakuru town, some of us, of course, were able to come to the city. When we come to the city, the same politicians start, they're very smart. They start creating class wars between poor and rich. That's not an idea for this century. Poor and rich. Why can't you bring in the political marketplace. Ideas.
All right. And
but
you're
not
a politician.
violence.
I'm going to just throw that question back to you.
Yeah.
You are a politician. Why can't you just bring forward politics of ideas and not, from what you're saying, mobilization and, starting fires here and there?
It's very enticing. And that is why politicians are squarely to blame, and leaders too. Because I have been on the campaign trail.
All right.
I know what happens. Most of this violence happens spontaneously because that voter is an independent person, has his own identity or her own identity. And she knows that, well, the politician whom I've elected for the past 5 years has not done anything to me or for me. And within this election period, I need to twist him or her so that I get some money out of the person. So I agree with Sam that the whole thing of values
needs to go back.
Needs to go back. But who again gives leadership? It's the politician. You must stand up there, like what Kibaki did, and what, of course, our president is doing, to remind people that we need to be careful, Bana.
Okay.
Yeah, we cannot continue going the path of irresponsible citizenry.
Really.
And, yeah.
Okay. All right. And Joy, very quickly, because we have literally 4 minutes to go on a break, I just want to understand, where does this stem from? Because based on the things that we have seen, not just recent happenings, but even just going back, you'd find that some of the people who are somewhat mobilizing and somewhat like instigating some of this violence incidences, they have power, right? So why? Is it to remain in power, to remain relevant? Why?
Yes, and when I'm listening to Ashira here, when you listen to him as a Kenyan, you can tell who he's talking about, what he's alluding to, and that is the problem. Because we've gotten ourselves into a space where we sanitize certain areas and we criminalize certain areas and victimize other areas, and we have this way of polarizing the nation. Politicians are the ones who use the language of, let me use Jubilees. They have this Jeshi Nengenu. Jeshi has done what?
Yes.
Jeshi is an army.
The name in itself.
We have seen places where you go and you hear terms like it is bedroom, it is madoa. And what we have had is a situation where some sections of the political divide get away with some things, and some sections of the political divide don't get away with it. Until we evolve to a place where wrong is wrong and it doesn't matter which side it comes from, but wrong is wrong, challenge not Wakina Sam, then is when some of these things will cease to have political power. But if certain people can organize and get away with something, then the other side finds a way of getting around it. So for example, yesterday the High Court gave Madam Sabina a reprieve and said, you know what, the IBC shouldn't have someone do, that's fine. I commented in a group and I said, and just like that, Moses Kuria gets a get out of jail free card.
That's true.
As long as we are not leveling the playing field for everybody, then these little pockets are able to be found. Why? It's because everybody has what they call a base.
Yes.
And when you have a base, you want to keep your base energized, you want to keep your base mobilized. And the way to do that is by giving them something to do all the time. Now, as long as that's how we are playing our politics, then it means some of these things remain acceptable.
5 years later,
but if we get to a place where violence is a no-no, it doesn't matter where it comes from, it doesn't matter who does it, the consequences are known, the consequences are swift, the consequences are sure, then people get to a place where now they have a healthy respect. So for example, what happened with the ICC, once upon a time, by the way, it was quite fine to say, you know what, this doesn't happen, and you light the country on fire. Those days it was very easy. You just want to light the country on fire, it was kibiriti.
It's very easy,
But after ICC, these days, even if you want to light the country on fire,
you can.
You don't light it too much, because there's a certain line if you cross. It's no longer Kenyan courts, it's international courts. So, but the evolution is happening. We're getting to a place where even for political expediency, it's becoming less fashionable to use violence.
But then again, the question is then, what do we need to make sure that we accelerate? Yes, we've come a long way. We do not want to go back. If anything, we just want to go forward and make sure that every single electioneering period, we have a peaceful campaign and peaceful election. So what needs to be done to just accelerate the same starting this year? Because, like Fashira says, we can't wait, because again, people might die in the process. And of course, I'll come back to you, Sam, in terms of then why are we not seeing these people, taking into account and making sure that they take responsibility for what they are doing, what is happening, right? As far as NCAC is concerned. But let's take a look at some of the feedback that we have so far. And remember, the question that we asked you is, what needs to be done to stop political violence in Kenya? Once again, what should be done to stop political violence in Kenya? So Rutere Kagendo says, allow Kenyans to make their own choices without coercion, and there will be no violence. Allow Kenyans to feel that they are part and parcel of electing the leaders they deserve. Kenyans are athletes in mind. We have long won and lost at the same time, all right? And then Elena Kale Kwita says, people should just wake up and realize fighting for politicians is the most stupid thing to do. No award or reward. One will remain to pambana na hali yake. The politician will be nowhere. Love and choose peace for posterity, all right? And then someone else says, Odhiambo Eric says, politicians should measure what comes out of their mouth and allow people to make decisions, okay? And then someone else says, this is Rono Wall, says, the political rivals must greet each other at some point and try to pursue the path of encouraging Kenyans to avoid violence that may plunge the entire country to chaos, noting that politics and elections will just come and pass, all right? And then Dominique Mohanga says, jail those who make hatred utterances in political rallies, all right? And then someone else says, this is Robina Osubo, who says, anyone who causes violence should carry their own cross. And of course, we'll throw all this to NCAC to answer these questions in terms of why aren't we seeing these people being prosecuted for the same. So we're taking a very short break, but of course, keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at Lubembe_Winnie. You want to call in live? Feel free to do so. The numbers are down on your screen, and just let's find ways in terms of making sure that we have peaceful elections this year and even in subsequent electioneering periods. All right, so see you after the short break. Stay with us. This is your world.
First Lady.
You were never really prepared to have a child. I am tired of trying to keep you happy. All day long I worked so hard. I do tons of paperwork and I organized my whole day to fit in this appointment only for you to forget and not care how it affects me.
I'm so sorry. It was my fault.
Yes, everything was your fault, yes.
Federico, please calm down.
Not only do the two of you go gallivanting who knows where, but you also don't seem to mind how filthy she left her room.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We were in such a rush that I didn't get time to organize everything.
Well, go clean up the mess you made and then feel free to leave this house.
No, excuse me, but she's not leaving from here.
Get peace of mind and protect the ones you love with the power of Dettol Bar Soap. It cleans and protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So no matter what type of mum you are, trust Dettol.
We teach, inspire, and transform young minds to achieve their fullest potential. Welcome to our Raka campus and also the new campus along Eastern Bypass. Enroll today at Royal Brain School Executive Kindergarten and Primary School, a unique and executive school where the future begins.
Hello? Kaimu. Uko?
Niko poa, natafuta Mariga juu.
Hata tuko naye hapa.
Baby.
Funga. Maze ni kunoma. Maze ni kunoma. Nikufia. Wapi? Uko.
This is your captain speaking. We are now airborne. I know you are calling to ask if this is the first class flight. Omera, you have paid 500 shilling for this flight. What do you expect? No food shall be served by a beautiful Jabel. And the pilot will not come out to greet you. As a matter of fact, we do not know how to land this thing safely. And I forgot to tell you, we are all... If you want to get this keys and suit to 30,000 feet above mean sea level, dial *812*800#. Skiza na Nissan, supporting local talent.
Make this feel like this with a few sips of this. Get going with Go Fruit Juice, now available in 500 ml on the Go packs.
Right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. The show is Your World, and just in case you're tuning in right now, today our focus is on politics and violence. And of course, the question that we're asking you today is what needs to be done, that is to stop the violence that is witnessed in the country. Once again, what needs or what should be done to stop political violence in Kenya? Keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at Lubembe_Winnie. Remember to use the hashtag Your World. And of course, I can see a number of your tweets. Some actually blaming the media in itself. All right. So again, we'll be looking at your feedback as we sample, or as we continue with the conversation. But right about now, I just want to get your reactions. And of course, given the recent incidents, that happened to former Prime Minister, that is Raila Odinga, and of course, some of the reactions that came out from the same. So take a look at this, and then we'll come back with the conversation.
Sasa kwenda kule kupiga ndege ya baba, unapiga ndege imekufanya nini? Kama kitu ingetokea hapo, hiyo jiwe iwe imeipiga huyo mzee, si hiyo ni moto ungewaka taifa letu la Kenya? Tunataka mambo kama haya? Tunataka mambo kama haya? Watu waombe kura kwa njia ya heshima na amani.
Mimi sina haja. Mimi si mtoto mdogo ya kwenda kuorganize watu kwa Ruto mawe. Kwa sababu gani? Bwana Ruto ni kitu kidogo sana kwangu. Anaweza kutemzuru kila mahali. Vile anavyotangatanga kila mahali, anapiga na bweka hapa na pale. Hiyo ni haki yake ya kibinadamu. Apige kifua yake, akohoe, ateme mate. Hiyo ni sawa kabisa. Hiyo ndio demokrasia katika taifa letu. Mimi nimetembea hata juzi, nilikuwa huko mpaka Eldoret kwa Ruto. Nimekaribishwa vilivyo. Kwa hakuna haja. Lakini wengine watu mpaka vile zingine ukiongea kisiasa usiseme maneno ambayo inaweza kuudhisha watu wengine. Kama unaongea juu ya mambo ya Migori. Manake kama wewe mwenyewe unasema maneno ambayo wale wengine inakasirisha watu, vijana wengine wanaweza kukasirika na waanze kufanya mambo zingine. Hiyo sio atirera ndio watuma. Hapana. Hapana. Inategemea yale vile umeongea. Manake kama wewe utaona maneno ambayo wengine wanaona ni kama matusi, wanaweza kukasirika. Lakini mimi sioni kama kuna shida. Mimi naona kama tumetoka katika kiwango kingine tunaelekea katika kiwango kingine, na demokrasia inazidi kunawiri katika taifa letu.
Also take this opportunity to apologize to the Honorable Raila Odinga for what happened to him yesterday. It was really unfortunate. And if any of our party candidates were involved, we are going to take disciplinary action against any candidate who may have been involved in the violence that was meted out against the Honorable Raila Odinga.
Asanteni sana. Tafadhali. Please. Sawa sawa. Sawa sawa. Wacheni mambo ya kutupa mawe, tuache kutupa mawe. Sawa sawa. Tunataka tuheshimiane. Hakuna haja ya kupigana. Please. Hakuna haja ya kupigana. Tunataka tuelewane. Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. Mimi nataka niwaulize wale wamenunua vijana kupigana mawe. Shame on them.
All right. So again, two different places, right? Regions, but of course the same case, and that is as far as violence is concerned. I want to start with you, Sam. What do you make of these two? One, yes, again, and we condemn all forms of violence, right? Doesn't matter on who, violence is violence at the end of the day. But the question is, there's one where we've had a lot of noise surrounding the same, that is on the recent attack on former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Ruto was also attacked in one way or the other, right? In Kondele. There weren't so much noise. The question is, why the bias, amongst some of these institutions? Because there's not so much noise, that was made as compared to what is happening right now, where every single day, the attack on former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is on everyone's lips.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we need to underscore the fact that the role of institutions in this election, state institutions, is going to be very critical.
All right.
Particularly institutions like the National Police Service, the Judiciary, Communication Authority of Kenya, NCIC, name them. How they behave in these elections will determine whether the country will hold together or it will fall apart. Okay. It's definitely true that all these institutions are expected to exercise the highest level of impartiality, where an incident of a similar nature has to elicit the same almost predictable and objective response.
Yes.
But obviously, it has not been that way. And that's why I'm saying it is incumbent upon those institutions to exercise their independence, their impartiality, and do the right thing as expected of them. On this particular issue, there is an emerging narrative which is coming out, which is close to hate speech, that almost, we call it in our jargon at NCIC, ethnic profiling, where you've had people making statements to the effect that certain parts of the country or certain communities are violent in nature, which is not true. Two, you've had cases of where people are saying we are very good at throwing stones than others. So I just want to say that we always play a lot with the peace we have as a nation, particularly during such moments when we have political processes.
Okay.
Those statements where you profile a group, a region, or even the stereotypes we use under normal circumstances, we should desist from using them now, especially when you are making reference to another community.
Okay.
Remember, the two types of violence we are dealing with are the criminal organized type, where people organize, prepare, plan, and so on. But we also have what governor aspirants say. Most of the violence we experience on the street during campaigns, some of it is spontaneous. Either because they are opportunistic guys who want to exploit the situation and make money, or those who go there expecting to be paid by a politician, and if the politician does not pay them, they resort to rowdy actions. And of course, there are others who come there with the purpose of, they are not in their normal state of mind. So in addition to the state institutions, the young people of Kenya must rise to the occasion and say, enough is enough. We cannot be used for violence by politicians this time. Two, accept their situation that maybe they are vulnerable and so on, but let them be alive to the fact that if they are not careful with what they do, they can actually set the country on flame.
All right.
And you know, the incident in Kongele and all that, and even the one the former Prime Minister went through, all those incidents could potentially trigger the implosion of our country if things went the
escalated
other side. So we really have to be sensitive and careful on what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about institutions having to put in the work, you know, just to make sure that at the end of the day, we do not see such cases happening. Again, you represent the NCIC, you know, today. And of course, there's a roadmap, you know, that was actually put in place by the NCIC. And of course, one of the things is speech elimination, right? We still see it. Right now, we see it happening. We see these people, yes, arrested, and then that's it. Story may sharp, but we don't see the prosecutions happening. So the question is, why? Why can't we? I mean, isn't it about time we see these people being prosecuted to somewhat teach a lesson to someone who might be thinking, I see me, I can just go to a podium, speak the way I want to speak, and then at the end of the day, I'll just get away with it.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the fact that NCIC has no prosecutorial powers. What we do is to monitor, detect, and report where we have cases of hate speech or ethnic profiling of that nature. And usually we escalate those cases to the courts, and that's where usually the problem is.
Can you like
so
put a bit
the
of
biggest,
pressure?
The biggest,
yes.
The weakest link in the fight against hate speech and ethnic contempt and political violence are the courts.
The courts,
because they release even people who have repeatedly been engaged in hate speech or ethnic profiling or even violence.
Yeah, so is it a case more of jurisdiction? Like ikifika hapa, we can't cross, you know, onto the other...
We do our best to present the evidence and present the case, but that is as much as we can do. We are trying to review our act at the moment to make sure that we strengthen the collection of evidence, the forensic investigation that we undertake, so that the courts do not have an excuse that the case was not properly investigated or the witnesses are intimidated and so on and so forth.
All right. And of course, Joy, I also want to pick your brain, especially given these two incidences, and where one, there was like a public outcry. We need an apology from, you know, this other person because of what happened to this other person. And of course, there's that aspect of then fanaticism, biasness, you know, and all those. So given these two incidences, what do you pick from them?
Let me start from where Sam left off, and then I come to your question. Being a lawyer and having worked in the judiciary, the rules of evidence are such that they are not controvertible.
Okay.
If you bring somebody, even if I've seen a video, but if you bring a person before the court, there is a threshold for proving criminal culpability. The threshold is beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
That means you have to combine the mens rea, the intention, as well as the action. So the video can show us the action, but if you cannot prove the mens rea, then it has to fail for lack of evidence.
Okay.
And I'm glad that Sam is saying that they're trying to strengthen their laws, because when that happens repeatedly, then it means there is a disconnect between how the crime is described, what are the ingredients, and then the office of the DPP in looking at the threshold to ensure that it meets the correct standard for prosecution before it goes to court. But if it comes to court and it does not meet the standard, they will be repeatedly sent back.
That's true.
So in having institutions like the NCIC, for example, usually it looks like a good idea, we set it up, but if we don't set it up with enough teeth to bite, I mean, how many years has it taken us to get EACC right? And even EACC still, there are places it falls short, because there are times you'll see a case, for example, the Aurora and Kimorer cases, where you come and you've got so many defendants, you've got so many counts, you've got one judicial officer. How are you expecting anybody to make head or tail of what's going on? So we have to figure out how we try some of these crimes to be able to extract the value that Kenyans expect. But sometimes if the way the law has been, so for example, NCIC has no prosecutorial powers.
Exactly.
The Secretariat also, as far as I know, is pretty small. Their capability also is very small. So you want them to monitor the rallies and collect evidence, and the evidence has to be independently and correctly collected, because evidence that's collected incorrectly is not admissible. So all those challenges, somebody has to put their mind to ensure that these gaps are filled, because sometimes I'll place a bet and say sometimes the systems are set up to fail. People know him tego itatushika. So what they do, they leave the mtego with wanajua ile screw wanavuta mtego
so that
iachane.
Yeah.
But now back to your question, that reiterates what I was trying to say earlier. The field is not level.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, if somebody gets away with, so for example, forget even that one. That one is the Madoadoa statement.
Yes.
When Turi made Madoadoa statement, it was furore. It was the cars going to collect him and do what. When Raila makes the same statement, it is something different.
Exactly.
As long as we've got
again,
this
even
double
like Sabina Shege's comment on kuna kaukweli hapo labda tuliiba.
Yeah,
it's a very big statement, right?
Because what happens now is there's somebody who actually uses that to get away with rape, murder, and manslaughter.
Absolutely.
Because they know, I know Flani is going to do the same thing and is going to get away with it. Okay. So I will do it knowing that if they try to tell me, I'll be like, start with that one before you come to me. And so you find politicians behaving badly because they know they will find a way of escape.
Getting away with
but one of the things that I'm heartened to see is that we're coming to a place where even as Kenyans, I think as a society we're getting tired of the drama. Right now, you will hear something repeatedly. Every time there is incidences of violence, there's something that is coming out. People who are paid to engage in violence. Now, the fact that we have to hire people to engage in violence tells me we have come from those days. Remember the days of Yote and Zekana Bila Moi? Nobody sent us from Kibera. Nobody sent us from the university. We came on our own volition. We walked. We were ready to die for the country. Right now, our kids are living in TikTok. Man, they are seeing the world through their screens. You tell them to go and throw stones.
No.
Unless there's something in it for them. So that tells me even violence is coming to a place where it's a commercial enterprise.
Oh, yes.
Only people who can afford it are able to employ it. But the thing that has also becoming a deterrent is personal responsibility.
Okay.
When we get to a place where the mob, these days everything is caught on camera, we're able to zoom in and see that is Joy's face. And the next thing I know is, despite the 200 bob I was given and the night of drinking and chewing miraa that we were entertained to, I am standing in the dock. I am being held for 7 days without bail. My children are the ones who are suffering. Next time you come, you open a bag full of money, I'll be like, your money perish with you. And that is where we are getting as a society, because videos and other things are making personal responsibility a thing. Such that I cannot show maybe the person who paid you, but this video, this is you, isn't it?
And that is what I want to ask, because again, so we're arresting the wrong person. This person was used, they were paid, right?
If you're the one who carried
so
it out, you're the right person.
No, we're leaving the detonator. Remember the detonator you said earlier on? Who paid this person
because what
to go and...
The detonator is able to do it because they tell you it's a mob thing, you'll get away with it. But if people realize, you know what, he may be the one instigating me, but I'm the one who will carry the cross. Then now it makes people think, next time he comes, I'm like, you know what, if you want to throw stones, like the people are telling politicians, you want us to march, start by putting your wife and children on the front row.
We'll and then us will come back.
That's where Kenyans are getting to. So before long, you'll have your money, but there'll be nobody to hire to go through stones. Because Kenyans have realized they're being thrown under the bus in this, because if NCIC have a video of you, you're the one who's throwing stones. And they do the investigations and they find out what's your name, where are you, and you're picked up and you're taken to court. Like not the guys who stoned the helicopter. They're being held for 7 days without bail. Our wakitoka hapo, do you see them? Did you see boarders apologizing, driving and saying, we are sorry, we are sorry?
No, the question is, we hope that they mean it. Because you see, you might actually come out, and then the next time, you were given, for example, 200 bob. The next time this person comes with 1,000 bob, you'll be like, ini bigi sana, let me just... So we hope there's, like you're saying, responsibility and really meaning the fact that, no, I'm not going. If you want me to participate in violence, absolutely, positively, no, thanks. That aspect of responsibility, we as Kenyans, right?
You know, Winnie, sometimes, were you here 5 years ago during the last election?
Yes.
This is exactly the same talk. NCIC came here, talked about, we are out there collecting, analyzing, recommending. And we don't have prosecutorial powers. That exactly happened 5 years ago. And another 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that exactly happened. But nothing has changed. On the ground, there's still violence. Chebukati came here 5 years ago, said, you know, in another 1 week, we're going to give out regulations against violence. Did we see that?
I mean, shouldn't they be formed before?
Very good.
Right?
Then, 5 years ago and 10 years ago,
yes,
you still saw Baba, my friend Uhunye, And Ruto standing up there and telling the crowds to chill down. That means that we are doing the same thing with all these very nice institutions and expecting different results. That is not right.
Okay.
2, I have gone round Mukuru, Korogosho. I have my friends in Korogosho.
Okay.
I have my friends in Kibera, Akinarama. I have my friends in Mukuru. Because in the process of political activity, you get to interact with them. They're not going to stop being hired for violence. You know why? That is the main reason is about their dignity.
Okay.
Yeah? And that is why, now me as an incoming governor, 2022, what you need to touch, what I need to touch, what I will touch is improving the dignity of our people.
Right.
Those low income earners, those urban poor, the rural poor in Uasin Gishu, yeah? They need, for example, the people in Korogosho. If you improve their dignity, you give them back their dignity. Where they have, a lady comes out of Korogosho or Mukuru and has a clean shower, has a clean toilet, has running water, has a small nice path to walk with her high heels. She will feel dignified in a way that she will never need to go out there and fight and express her anger.
But
So-
haven't they been promised that, like over and over, and every
That is,
general election
yes,
is the
but you
same
see,
promise?
and that is why during every election year, they revenge.
Okay.
And they will not spare the politicians.
I think
they will not
Okay.
spare the politicians.
All right.
And as long as we continue neglecting our urban poor and our rural poor, this violence will never end.
Okay.
We must make sure as leaders, if we want 5 years from now to come and address them and tell them vijana hoi and vijana tiamala tialala and tibim,
Yeah.
they should come out of free will. They should come with a full stomach, with a clean shirt, with a clean mind.
Okay.
So that you're not coming to sell them and mortgage them into violence.
All right.
You're coming to give them hope.
Okay.
And that is why we need responsible leaders. What you're seeing there, Baba, who I respect, and he's my candidate, because I know that is where the future of our country lies. He goes there, who does he address? He's addressing the urban poor. He's giving them hope that, look here, when I get in, I will be able to have Baba care in terms of good health. I'll be able to give you free education. I'll be able to give you affordable housing. That is the dignity the people want. When you give them that, you'll never see violence. But on the other side,
what is the
if you
guarantee?
pit, if you pit my Korogosho friend Uncle against Sam who lives in Kilimani, and give this guy a wheelbarrow and tell him that Sam is a bad person, what will happen is that that violence will never stop.
Okay, question
What
is,
you need to
what
give
guarantee,
Uncle
what
is
guarantee,
a toilet,
yes,
health, affordable housing.
But what guarantee does that have that this will stop violence? Because again, like you said, and like you said, we've had these cases over and over every electioneering period. Maybe nikikuja nitawatengenezea barabara, kutakuwa na sewage, kutakuwa na this, kutakuwa na that.
Yes.
And then again, after this person is elected, they disappear,
Yes.
right? And in one of the NCAC roadmaps, of course, there's that aspect of trust, where Kenyans, where they are at now, they're like, listen, we do not trust any of these persons. Because whatever they tell us, they don't do it, right? So it's just come, we give you the votes, and then you absolutely disappear. So what guarantee does whatever you're saying that, yes, your candidate is telling these people, I will give you this, I will give you that. The other side of the political faction also saying, me, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, if you elect me into power. There's that aspect of guarantee that whatever all these politicians are selling will not, first of all, they'll fulfill their promises, or number two, it will not stop a repeat of what happened in 2007, 2008. We don't trust politicians anymore.
Of course, Winnie, you will never see a Kilimani mom lifting up a stone and throwing it in a rally.
Okay.
That is true.
Impossible, because
Yes.
the Kilimani mom has water,
been empowered.
sewage,
Yeah.
clean environment. And the politician is more than willing. Actually, he's from Kilimani.
All right.
And we'll always take care of their neighbors.
Kilimani mom.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
what guarantees do we have?
Yes.
Let me tell you. You know, you can, you don't need a pregnant woman does not need to undress to see that she's pregnant. You can tell.
No, you can absolutely tell, yes.
You can tell the politician, and even those basic guys in Korogosho, Mukuru, and Kibera, they know the politician who will not deliver.
Okay.
One.
But still vote them in.
But still, yeah, because of the allure of the peremende they get from those leaders.
All right.
So the guy comes with goodies and confuses you.
I just want to comment on...
Before you comment, can we just go through some of the feedback and then I'll give you a chance to comment on what Wachira is saying together with the feedback. Remember, the question that we asked you today is what should be done to stop the political violence that we are experiencing in the country. So Jackson Gary says the youth should always be in the front line championing for peace in order to prevent and reduce violence. Over and above, the biggest problem facing youth today is unemployment. Youth should elect leaders who can address their problems. We should stop retrogressive politics. All right. And then at Kiplangat Elias 5 says, actually, people should be mobilized on the importance of each and every leader in the society. Also, people should give a chance to other leaders to express themselves, even if they hate them. #unity. All right. And then at Bayano Kumo says, we need a credible election from IEBC that everyone can be content with, both winning and losing sides. And then we also have at Tiago_K254 says, Wakenya waelimishwe kwamba kuna maisha baada ya kura. Ukabila upingwe kwa hali yoyote ile, tujijue kwa kabila la Mkenya. All right? I hear you. And then at Devi_KE says, politicians must sober up and appreciate the fact that we are not their tools to getting power. All right. Some, of course, a lot. The Kenyans' #1 demand from politicians, and that is, first of all, let's just have sobriety, right? Even as we campaign, but also at the same time, give us as a chance as Kenyans to vote in the right leaders. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I just want to respond from where Wachira left, because he talked about politician. As a politician, he's talking about Kenyans living in dignity. And that is a bit out of what we experience on a daily basis.
All right.
Our interaction with the citizens and the politicians is that most politicians thrive in the current state where Kenyans are. Poor, disempowered, and almost helpless, and almost hopeless. That is the condition most politicians thrive in. And that is because for them, it is easier for them to mobilize and use violence on people who are vulnerable and susceptible to manipulation. If Kenyans were empowered, the way Wachira is saying, what that state of Kilimani and Korogosho will be true. But I know that there are instances where politicians actually exploit the grievances of their own people to exploit them, because that will make them to be elected, and that will make them to achieve their political goal. The day we elevate the politics and our political culture to where you actually care about the people you are leading, you actually do what you promise during campaigns, and you work hard to empower the citizens, then we will eliminate the possibility of citizens being exploited and also manipulated. And I mean, exploited is the main word.
Is the word, yeah.
Is the word. And even now when you look at the institutions, NCIC, IEBC, who creates mistrust on those institutions? It's not the citizens, it's the politicians.
Yeah.
They are the ones who make the regulations, the legal framework for NCIC. They do it in such a way that, and some of them have told us openly, we can never strengthen NCIC to the point where it can be effective. IEBC, who creates suspicion that IEBC is not able to do elections. 2 weeks ago, there is a politician who said, we are going to protect our votes. And he was calling on young people after voting to stand by and protect their votes. What protection can a young person provide on elections? The business for a young person is to come vote and go for your own business.
Yes.
The people who protect the vote is IEBC, it's the police, and that is it. So even the state of our institution is being attacked by the same groups. And when you look at our problem as a nation, from the names of these coalitions, we know what ails Kenya. the lack of unity.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about Kenya Kwanza, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya. Just go through the Uzalendo. That is where our problem is.
Okay.
But when it comes to giving prescription on what needs to happen as a nation, we go in the opposite direction.
Okay.
We just focus that we have a problem of lack of unity, lack of cohesion, and violence is always a big threat to our own existence as a nation. And begin to fix it at that point.
Yeah. All right, Joy, I'd want you to react from, I think basically what I'm getting from Sam is NCIC, and of course together with other institutions, you know, IEBC, is like, we're tied. There's only too much that we can do, right? So then what needs to be done to make sure that then again, because like he says, there's some people who just come outrightly and say, we cannot strengthen you, because we know once we strengthen, for example, NCIC, tunajua mahali mtafika, and it will affect us as leaders. So then again, what happens to such institutions that are mandated to make sure that cases of violence, hate speech, and all those things are not there in the first place, right? But here we are. So of course, you'll be reacting to the same, Joy, but keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at Lubembe_winning. You want to call in live? Again, feel free to do so. And let's chime into the conversation of the day. We're taking a very short break, but of course, when we come back, then moving ahead, what needs to be done and what should we be saying as a country? Stay with us. You know, NC.
You've been searching for a solution for your stubborn dark marks. So have we. Nivea Lumina 630. With a breakthrough patented ingredient, Lumina 630 visibly reduces stubborn dark marks accumulated over 10 years in 4 weeks. Nivea Lumina 630. Our ultimate solution for even and luminous skin. Our global presence, we offer world-class banking services. We support SMEs through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program by providing 5,000 USD seed capital and capacity building to young entrepreneurs. Apply today at www.tefconnect.net and visit any UBA bank branch to open an account today.
Come August this year, Kenyans will head to the ballot to select their leaders for the next 5 years. Time has come for the electorate you're targeting to know you better. Articulate your thoughts, plans, and vision to the relevant audiences. Reach out to us through the contacts on your screen.
Make this feel like this with a few sips of this. Get going with Go Fruit Juice. Now available in 500 ml on the Go packs.
All right, welcome back. And of course, we're in the last phase of this discussion. So again, like we said, if you want to chime into the conversation, the time is now because time really flies. So the question that we're asking you today is what should be done to stop political violence in the country? Once again, what should be done to stop political violence in the country? Of course, I'll be looking at your feedback before we end the conversation. But right about now, Joy, that aspect of then these institutions that are mandated to make sure that, you know, for example, like NCIC, IEBC, make sure that the elections are credible and, of course, the results are also credible. But then again, they get to a point where it's like there's nothing much that we can do. We can only do so much. So what happens to those institutions then? Because clearly it's like strengthening them is a very, very big issue, right?
But there are several institutions we have not explored, which in my opinion would be very strong and would be basic in actually securing this issue.
Right.
We have to look at internal party disciplinary procedures. If as a party you have articulated yourself as being zero tolerant to violence, then there has to be something that you as a party do with your candidates to ensure that they adhere to this. Now, so far we have had the lip service, but we've not seen too much of the, because look at some of the other jurisdictions. If you do something, even if you're a popular candidate, they're willing to let you go because of you have brought something into disrepute that they're not willing to negotiate. So forget even about politics. Let me give you an example of Jeremy Clarkson, who's very popular, did Top Gear for many years. I mean, that was a winning show. We all loved it. The ratings were very good. But he had had a series of violent outbursts and he had been warned about it. And this time he had an especially violent outburst. And BBC were like, you know what, we don't care how popular the show is, but you've gotten to a place where you've crossed the red line. And that became enough for him to no longer work in Top Gear. He's still working TV, but he's doing his own things. We have to get to the place where political parties decide. We are not going to be the ones who are going to encourage people to get away with rape, murder, and manslaughter. We're going to use our internal party mechanisms to rein people in. And other institutions also is, for example, Parliament. If you're an elected member and you behave in a certain manner, the speaker should have, like in courts, there's something we call taking judicial notice. The speaker can take judicial notice of the fact that we saw you on TV talking over the weekend and you brought the entire house into disrepute. Take 2 sessions out of, if we start having those little slap on the wrist from the places that matter to politicians, then politicians now start thinking, okay, maybe I ought to think differently. But here we are saying he's a strong candidate, we can't afford to lose that candidate. Okay, if you can't afford to lose that candidate, then your party has the tag of having incompetent leaders. So for example, Jubilee in the last term, we knew that Sonko, or rather the party knew that Sonko was a problematic candidate. But did the polls and said, you know what, he's a popular candidate. And Jubilee stuck their name to Sonko and gave him the position. And he went ahead and he clinched the position because we were like, Nairobi must go Jubilee by hook or by crook. See now, see our lives. We got to a place, even the party was like, you know what, we can't live with this anymore. We must find a solution. Political parties have to learn that it doesn't matter how popular candidate is. If they're the wrong candidate, they need to be ready to bite the bullet and start denying people tickets. So if as a politician, you know you won't even get the ticket to run, will you not think twice about what you're saying?
You will not do
so NCAC is doing the best they can, DCI doing the best they can, DPP the best they can, the courts the best they can. But if you really want to politicians, catch them where it matters most. Nominations or in the House.
And of
course, those are the 2 places where they feel the pain.
And we've had those conversations, you know, going around where, you know, just this person out of this party because they're misbehaving. They're tainting the name of the party. They're tainting, you know, the credibility of the party, but still, nothing is done. You know, we still have the same people. So Washira, you, as you know, an aspirant, and of course with the Jubilee Party, what is that quote unquote punishment? You know, Joy is saying, you know what, touch them where it hurts the most, right? But you as a person who is vying for, you know, governorship seats, or whichever seats it would be, right? Would you be happy with this form of punishment, quote unquote? Because I know that there will be so many demonstrations, be like, no, we do not want this.
You know, Winnie, and I agree partly with Joy. We've been in that party before, and we're still there. And it is a party, of course, that is anti-violence. We know the home of violence. Jubilee is not the home of violence. It is a home of progress. But of course, we are now going to the nomination stage. And as Joy says, we need to promote internal party democracy. The first time I met Kioni, I shook his hand and I told him, my guy, you have a big job here. You have to make sure that you remove cronyism, nepotism in our party. Because that is the only way we can grow in the next 100 years and get to now use it as a sieve to get high quality leaders rising up in our nation.
All right.
Because it starts at the party. But over and above that, of course, it's about these people who are educated, the middle class. Most of them, I'm sure you meet them, they say, sipendi siasa, I don't like politics.
Yeah.
That is your enemy number one.
All right.
Because the food you eat, the seat you're seated on, is all a political decision. If nation didn't get a license, you would not have a job. And that licensing is a political decision. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that we start encouraging the middle class. We start encouraging the elite to come out and try, like what I'm trying as a governor of Nairobi. At the end of the day, of course, you'll experience the troubles on the ground where young people crowd around you and they demand money from you and they demand that you protect yourself against their violence. You must experience the full blast of that so that when you rise up to be a leader of these people, then you know what happens. Otherwise, what you will get, you'll get the normal or run-of-the-mill
but do
gangsters.
you really have to experience that? You see, it's the same analogy
That's
that when
the
we were
reality.
younger, you
That's
know,
the
a section of parents will tell you, sisi unajua tulikuwa tunatembea mguu long distances, tukienda shule, and that is why we're here today. So I would be like, I really don't have to walk a long distance to go to school barefoot for me to really understand, you know, how important, you know, some of these things
Winnie,
are.
at the stage we
you
are
don't
in,
really have to experience violence to really understand.
Winnie, we cannot run away from reality.
Okay.
The young man from Mukuru has not had a square meal. You understand? So that guy has, in fact, we even have a name for them. They're called Sangwanyas. Sangwanyas are people who, Sangwenyas.
Okay.
Who,
what is Sangwenya?
A Sangwenya is something similar to a gypsy.
Okay.
Yeah? Who is, wakes up in the morning, knows that there is a rally, an Azimio rally somewhere, or an UDA rally somewhere. They invest.
Okay.
They hire a motorbike for 500 bob, and they follow the entourage.
All right.
And along the way, they cheer you. They create insecurity because you're high up there on the Prado, and then they extort money from you.
Okay.
For good reason. They have no food.
And they need food.
They have nothing to eat.
Yeah.
So for heaven's sake, they are trying to send a message to you, and they're not organized by any politician. The Sangwenyas. They're out there getting what they call their rightful share of political money. So they cause insecurity to you, they threaten you, they praise you. Like me, most of the time they praise me because they know I'm not out there in the political field to give out peremendes. I'm out there to give them hope and leadership as incoming governor of Nairobi.
All right.
So we must deal with those people. And as a leader, at the stage we are in as a country, and as Nairobi, you must step out of your office as a middle-income earner, as an elite, and go and experience the life of this person you are promising to lead.
To understand.
Experience his violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tone him down. Because they're never violent to me anymore.
Yeah.
Initially, they used to threaten me, but I step out of my car and I engage them. I tell them there's no difference between me and you. I've gone through the same journey, but I've made it, and I want to hold your hand.
But listen, politicians are very...
All of them have a sob story.
Right.
Of how they
just
started
recently
off badly.
Exactly. And just recently, and they can do all those things just to show that we fit in. But really you don't, you know?
Yeah.
Number one, I mean, I was looking at a picture of some politician who... so there's a mama mboga, right? Just minding her business, going about her business, right? And then the politician comes and then sits down with them, and then wanaanza kukata mboga now, just to create that illusion that, you know what, we are one, you know? But really, we are not, you know? So that aspect of then creating narratives just to remain relevant, you know? But sometimes you end up crossing the boundary and, you know, creating chaos in the process. So when it comes to stemming these things, I want to hear that from you as a leader. What would be the ideal punishment, quote unquote, you know, for these people who are misbehaving? Joy says, hit them where it hurts the most. You as a politician, you as a leader, what would be like the best punishment for these people who are misbehaving?
Of course, there are different punishments that should be meted out on different categories of people.
All right.
Yeah, my friend from Korogocho, my friend from Madare, should not be jailed for life for throwing a stone.
Yeah.
But the guy who incited him or her should go in for life, should be barred by IBC.
Okay.
IBC might be claiming that, oh, they don't have 2 teeth to bite and all that. For heaven's sake, you are the one who prints the ballot paper.
Okay.
ODPP is seated there waiting for a file from ICC, from IBC. For heaven's sake, you pounce on that political criminal and capture him and put him in, not postponing punishment to September.
Okay.
So the people who will die now out of political violence, who will carry that blood? Is it the person who arrests them today?
Okay.
Or the one who... So we need to get very serious. And then, of course, I agree, we need to strengthen our institutions.
Okay.
We must strengthen our institutions.
institutions,
The gaps that are there in NCIC that do not give them teeth must be tied. You know, IBC, NCIC, and of course, that whole procedure in the judiciary. And of course, a whole culture around us where we respect law and order. This country cannot be able to grow when people all over the world, investors all over the world, are seeing the youth carrying stones.
Absolutely.
Why? Because you're bringing in political risk into this country. And political risk is very expensive.
Yeah.
Violence will deter people from investing in Nairobi, in our country.
All right.
So this is something that we must deal with.
Okay.
And all these young men, first give them water, give them dignity.
All right.
They will never need to carry a stone.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so you want to respond?
I think for me, I would like to pick up from where she left, that there has to be a shift in our political culture.
Okay.
And that shift has to be anchored around political parties.
All right.
Because all these politicians are resident somewhere in terms of political parties. And if political parties entertain bad manners, then even the institutions ahead will not be able to deal with them. Number two, currently, what we are emphasizing as NCIC is the issue of political decency.
All right.
First of all, before even you get this case to the political parties or to courts or to NCIC, the expected behavior from a leader is decency. All of us are here properly dressed. None of us insulting each other. What has happened in our country is the political leaders have lowered the bar of leadership. It's a joke.
Okay. Yeah.
It's no longer a respectable, honorable thing. Why will a politician incite a community against another? No culture in Kenya encourages that. No religion encourages that. No generation encourages that. So why will a political leader be involved in those kind of acts? And that's why these elections, we are emphasizing more about the principle of political decency. Just be a decent person. Be respectful, be tolerant, be a human being.
You know, we've had some politicians say that it's the people themselves who want them to somewhat behave.
And I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
The question of naming and shaming, that's another principle, another approach we are using. Okay. And I can tell you, no politician wants to be shamed.
Okay, the wall of shame, yeah?
They have come and said, we will not appear. And some of them have not appeared, and we've not put that list. Lastly, is your point. And I think Wachira has made reference to that, and I think that statement was made by the PS Interior that we will not arrest anybody involved in hate speech until September. The reason is, when you arrest them, their popularity goes up with their communities. Because now they emerge as heroes, they come out as the people who can defend and protect themselves. And that now goes back to our whole value system as a country, and also as a people. Most of the guys who get elected in this country, with due fairness, some of them don't deserve to be leaders of anything.
That's true.
But because they are involved in all the bad things, those are the people we elect. And so, as a nation, we get the leaders we deserve. So it's now up to the citizens to begin to select who can actually take us to the place of hope and paradise, as opposed to the person who is constantly exploiting your state as a poor person, as a vulnerable person, as a susceptible person. And then after you have gotten the votes, and perhaps you have been engaged in some form of violence, it disappears until the next one. So we also need to completely change the way we see leadership and go back to what leadership is supposed to be. A leader is supposed to be a peaceful person, respectful, honorable.
Don't really have to do a lot of
So
insults
let the politicians not bother NCIC or IBC or even the police with bad manners.
All right.
Bad manners is bad manners. Stop it.
Okay, all right. But then again, Joy, so what will it take for us to get there, where we have respectable politicians who come in with ideas, sell us manifesto that we know that at the end of the day, they will be able to honor their promises and all those things, and not just people who come, heckle, insult one another, and then at the end of the day, that's it. What will it take for us to get there?
No, there was once upon a time when, and I like the word that some has used, when bad manners was bad manners. We didn't need to define bad manners. We knew what was bad manners. Talking back at your elders was bad manners. Being rude and belligerent was bad manners. Being unruly and just generally disagreeable was bad manners.
All right.
And those things were not just commonly accepted, they were taught from an early age.
Okay.
We have a society where more and more people are getting away with bad manners, and some are not even aware that it is bad manners.
That's true.
There's a certain threshold that we have to raise again, where we refuse to be treated in a certain way.
Okay.
So for example, as a lady, there is a way Washira can talk to me that I will find unacceptable.
Yeah.
If I keep quiet about it, the next time he wants to do it, and I'm not saying
continue.
that I'm just using him as an example.
Yes.
If the next time he comes in the same style and manner, because I condoned it last time,
in the first place,
I find it difficult to now push back.
Yeah.
So it might have to get so bad until I get to a place where now I push back. And that's what Kenyans have done. Our politicians have behaved badly, and we've sort of smiled and clapped, sometimes even encouraged them.
We always just say, you're in politics.
And so we've gotten to a place where it's like politicians are allowed to get away with certain things that we generally find unacceptable. So for example, let me use my example that I hold dear, church.
Okay.
For a long time, politicians came to church and behaved badly until the church had to come to a place and say, you know what, we are drawing certain lines. Now you won't be able to do this anymore. And many of the church members will tell you, now even when politicians come to church, they behave in a certain way. And I think you saw a clip making the rounds where a politician was talking, and the bishop stood up and told him, you know what, now you are crossing the red line, so stop and take 2 steps back. When we start pushing back and saying, you know what, that is unacceptable, we will not take it, Kenyans also owe themselves a duty, an obligation to refuse to be entertained, especially hate speech, because that's where it usually starts, the hate speech. There's the element that Washira has pointed out that is true. There's some people for whom it's basic survival. I mean, even the guy who has 500 to hire a motorbike is doing better. There's some fellows who that 500 is what he's hoping for. As long as also you've got people who are so disempowered that it does not take much to mobilize them to violence, that is also a problem. So you see Azimio talking to the quality of life. You see also the Hustler Nation talking to the quality of life. All of them agree that it has gotten to a place where people are not willing to live as if they are still, you know, second-class citizens. People are demanding a certain basic structure. It is a shame that after all these years of independence, we are still talking about things like clean toilets as development. It is not development to have usable toilets. And it is like bare minimum. So Kenyans have to get to a place to tell somebody, look, tarmacking this road is not a favor. We are paying fuel levy, we are paying service charge, we are paying taxes. We are paying taxes. We expect the road to be tarmacked. Even if it's not, we start triggering the things that put in motion impeachment, removal from office, censuring. I was talking to some young people yesterday and told them, do you know in the law you can write a letter and petition the speaker to ask a question to a minister as to why they've not done this and that? But Kenyans behave as if we are so disempowered until
hatuna nguvu,
hatuna uwezo. We hear that a lot. Tuna nguvu na tuna uwezo. That declaration we refuse. Sisi tuna nguvu na tuna uwezo. Kenyans have to realize we are the bosses of this politician. There's a time when the politician was the leader. The words that we hear the Cukes using, the Mudhamaki. We are past that, by the way. We are the ones who are hiring them. And if Kenyans understood the power that they have to demand better of our leaders, then they would behave better because they know this is the ground that they need to be listening to. I am the ground. I am the one who decides whether you get to where
and
you
putting
want to
that
go or
person
not.
in the office in the first place. Some are really curious to understand. So fine, we're really, again, NCSA is all about promoting peace, making sure that, you know, these politicians don't behave badly at the end of the day. But then again, at what point does the electorate, you know, come in terms of, are they empowered enough? What needs to be done to make sure that, given what Wachira is saying, that if this person is empowered enough, they would know what Joy again is saying, that this is my right, this is not a favor. Ayu politician anatujali sana that they want to do this for us, and yet they should have done that in the first place. So then where does NCSA come in terms of making sure that, you know, the electorate is empowered enough?
Under our election bill and norma roadmap, we have our deliberate programs. First of all, one of them is targeting the young people. We call it Peace in the Cities. And that program basically mobilizes young people through peace caravans and roadshows to talk about their role as people who can be defenders of peace. We also have a program that targets women. About 2 weeks ago, we had a roadshow cutting across Kakamega, Nandi, Kericho, Sondu border, where women were leading peace caravan together with other groups to make sure that people are sensitized about their good neighborliness. And I think the most powerful message that came out from that process is a story that was given by women from Nandi and Moroni, which is in Kisumu, where they are saying some of them are married from another community. But when it comes to elections, they are told to go back to their communities.
Oh, no.
So basically, you migrate for 2 weeks until the election is over. And the women were saying, what will I feel when I see my neighbor, whom I've lived with all these years,
for a long time, yes,
packing our bags and going across the border? And it is both ways, from Moroni to Nandi. And they said, when it comes to these elections, as women from Nandi and Kisumu, that border, we will sit in one place after voting.
Yes.
And let whoever wants to come and kill us, kill all of us. Because you cannot separate us simply because of elections. That's the reality of what happens with this political violence. It actually displaces people, it creates fear, and it even separates families and neighbors who live together. So we have a whole program of creating such processes where neighbors can speak about them living together, neighbors can talk about them being their own keepers and defenders, and also telling them that once you disagree at the political level, please move to the courts. And that's why I started my remarks by saying what happened on Friday was a good thing for even our elections. That the judiciary has demonstrated not once, not twice, but repeatedly that they can be independent. So there is no reason for any Kenyan to mobilize people into violence or protest demonstrations. If you are dissatisfied with the results of the elections,
just go to court. Don't take matters into your own hands.
Don't take matters into your hands. And that's the other message we are taking across as NCIC to the citizens. That tell the politician, the problem is not going to be solved by us. Go to the court.
Go to the courts.
And I think the courts have given that kind of confidence that they can be independent.
It's true. We've had a lot of Kenyans saying, you know what, now at least we have faith in the judiciary, given what happened on Thursday. All right. So let's take a bit of your feedback, and then I'll come back and take your parting shots because time flies. All right. And of course, the question that we asked you today is, what should be done to stop violence in the country? At Ivan Osligieng, or is it Ochieng one, says political tolerance should be the gospel preached by all the aspirants, okay? And then at Juma_Aspin says, people need to change how they think about matters politics. All Kenyans need to change and understand how the government really has to work for them collectively. All Kenyans have to live outside tribal ideologies. People need a Kenyan standard to live up to, all right? And then at Eunice Githongori says, I think for me, lazima kutungwe sheria. I think that is what you meant. I think for me, lazima kutungwe sheria mpya inayoweza kumfungua mtu akiongea siasa mbaya na kufunga na asiwanie kiti chochote kuanzia hapo. All right. I hear you, Eunice, and of course, you know, that was some of the things that we were talking about as far as quote-unquote, punishment that is ideal, especially for these people who are behaving badly when it comes to politics. All right, so I want to take your closing remarks as we have to end the show in the next probably 5 minutes. So I'll start with you, Wachira, in the sense that, fine, so we have identified the gaps, right? We know where the problem lies. Moving forward, and starting with this general election, not like 5 years to come or 10 years to come, moving forward, even as we head into the general election, what kind of atmosphere do you want to see? First of all, create, number one, as a leader or as a politician, and then number two, as a Kenyan, really, because at the end of the day, aside from just you being a politician, you are a Kenyan, in the first place. So what kind of atmosphere do you want to create and see? Yeah, of course, even before I get into that, Winnie, I must, of course, compliment Nation Media, because they also have a very big responsibility to ensure that they promote responsible leadership. That's true. And also remind you that corruption is at the heart of violence. And if you look at the Kibaki time, there was economic progress, reduced corruption, but then in this other period that we had, the first 5 years had a hint of corruption that is now bringing up what you're seeing. Lack of these very basics and lack of money in the pockets of people. And then in the last 5 years of Uhuru government, we've started seeing infrastructure coming out. Now, what do we need to do? The picture I have, it's utopian that there will be no violence. But the truth is that there will be violence. Okay. So what do we need to do? I have seen the police looking helpless in all our rallies. They must up their game. Okay. The Inspector General of Police and all the other supporting institutions must make sure they don't just bystand when a politician is throwing in insightful words and when a young man is motivated to throw a stone. We have a whole institution, the police. They should come in and arrest the situation. That is what I expect at the bare minimum. If that doesn't happen, then we will say we are a banana republic and just accept that this election will go on the way it is. We only have around 140 days. And hope that in 2027, I know you can find me within 2022. Right now, yes. We have to be very careful. Okay. It is predicted all over the world that there will be a major revolt in 2027. And why? And who is responsible? Is because of corruption. Now, the media, mainstream, social media should step in and be able now to showcase responsible leaders and remove the cloud of confusion. And eventually we get high quality leaders who will be able to develop our country and create opportunities for our youth. I hear you, Wachira. Okay, we literally have 2 minutes to go. So Joy, I'll give 45 seconds.
I'll keep it pretty quick. We are just about to finish the Lenten period. The Muslims have started their holy month of Ramadan. And I know about a week ago, I think the Pentecostals started their 40 days of prayer at Heaven's Gate. Kenyans are keen on having a peaceful election. That's why all this religious activity, all of them are talking about praying towards peace for Kenyans. So politicians also need to read the mood. People are tired of war. COVID has beaten us to a pulp. We've gotten to a place where we're just ready to rebuild. But even as we pray, let us answer our own prayers. As communities, let us shun violence. Any place you see trouble brewing, let us speak up and just counsel our young people and just be the voice of reason. Because I'll tell you something, no politician goes out to throw the stones. They depend on us to still do it. Let's deny them hands, let's deny them legs. Let us simply ignore them, even when they call for violence. If they want to fight, they can go fight each other. Okay. All right. And Sab, very briefly, like 30 seconds. Briefly, I'll say, I just want to call for political tolerance across the board, and especially now, this particular month when we are doing the party nominations. Getting peace needs a lot of work. And for us to have a peaceful elections in August, every step of the process has to be peaceful. Starting with party nominations and going the way to, all the way to the elections. And the campaigns. And it's surprising
that we are already campaigning when the official campaign period has not
even started.
So I just hope those kind of things will be broken. But let's not take peace for granted. It takes a small action to destroy a country.
That's true, and we enjoy peace. So really, I hear you, Sam. So Sub-Corner Commissioner, NCIC, Mdivo political analyst, as well as Washiran Njuguna, who is a governor aspirant, Nairobi County. Thank you. Thank you very much for contributing to this very important and necessary conversation. And most importantly, thank you for watching and, of course, chiming into the conversation. Clearly, what we've all learned today is we need to take responsibility. Doesn't matter whether you're a leader or the electorate. It is a matter of taking responsibility and making sure that we contribute towards peace. So on that note, we have to say goodbye. My name is Winnie Lubembe. God bless. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow morning as well. But for now, until then, God bless and goodbye for now.